From Kansas State University, this is Agriculture Today. Along with Sarah Moyer, I'm Jeff Wichman. K-State's Jon Ulmer visits with Sarah about the state of agricultural education in Kansas, including its teachers and curriculum. He also highlights what's ahead for himself and Kansas FFA members at next month's 2018 National FFA Convention at Expo. K-State foresters Bob Atkinson and Jaron Tyndall preview this year's Fall Forestry Field Day, being held October 16th at the Kickapoo Tribe Reservation. In agricultural news, efforts to improve animal disease traceability and this week's soybean update. And Gus Vander Hoeven focuses on a troubling roundabout in this week's Stop, Look, and Listen. It's all just ahead on Agriculture Today over the K-State Radio Network.
Agricultural producers, landowners, and creditors, you have a partner in your legal and financial needs. Kansas Agricultural Mediation Services offers reliable, trusted information and guidance. Whether you need advice for ag credit concerns or are transitioning your operation to the next owner, Kansas Agricultural Mediation Services can assist you in making sound decisions for your business. To learn more, call 800-321-3276 or visit us online.
Welcome back to Agriculture Today. I'm Sarah Moyer, here to talk about the state of agricultural education in Kansas. And here to join us, we have K-State Professor of Agricultural Education, Jon Ulmer. Good to have you on, Jon.
Good to be here, Sarah. Thanks.
Let's begin with looking at how Kansas is looking with teachers and what type of numbers do we have for open positions in the state of Kansas compared to some of the graduation numbers expected here in the near future?
Yeah, it is a great time to be an ag teacher. We are growing in the number of ag programs, therefore we have a need for ag teachers. We are approaching 200 ag programs across the state, and that is equal to about 248 teaching positions currently across Kansas. This current year, we have about 33 first-year teachers, so we have a large number of folks who are just entering the profession. And the number of graduates from institutions like K-State or Fort Hays State are not meeting that demand. Last year, we had 19 graduates. 17 of those went into a high school ag teaching job. One went to Extension, which is a great place to have our graduates as well. And one went to seminary, so we lost them from education about agriculture, but not education as a whole. This year, we will have 19 student teachers. We have a high percentage of out-of-state students, and we never know if we're going to get to keep them in Kansas or not. But we expect there to be quite a few openings again next year. There were approximately 51 openings this year, and some of those were teachers moving from one place to another. But 33 of those ended up hiring new teachers. So there's a demand. Our program at K-State is growing. We are at the highest total number of students we've been in about 18 years, so that's good, but we still have a ways to go to meet demand.
Compare those to the number of FFA programs in the state. Are those pretty similar then as well?
Yeah, so every program of the 200 ag programs, every one of them has an FFA chapter as well. There are a few who are brand new programs who are still, they start with the classroom and then they get their FFA chapter rolling. So there are a few that don't have fully activated or fully functional FFA chapters, but that number's pretty small, but they will have that chapter soon. The demand for new programs is really amazing. In the fall of 2017, we added 14 new ag ed programs that became FFA chapters, and this year I believe there were 8 new chapters and programs. So agricultural education is growing, and not just in the rural areas. We have some pretty urban schools, very large schools that are adding ag programs and FFA. They're starting to see the benefits to their students of education in and about agriculture and the benefits from their students in FFA chapters.
Is that affecting at all the focus in curriculum or where different schools are putting their emphasis?
So I think we see a lot of still very traditional ag programs that are teaching a lot of skills that will lead directly to jobs or careers, or to those careers short after maybe just a little bit more education. But when we come to some of the newer programs, some of the more urban programs, we're seeing a lot more about where is your food coming from, what are the job opportunities, but that's not necessarily the major focus. We have a lot of discussions about where is our role in preparing somebody for a career? Is it to create interest? Is it to prepare them? Is it somewhere in between? And that really varies by the local school and by the local community and what they desire to have their program do. But really, more than anything, we are getting students interested in foundational skills in an agriculture career. And then because most jobs in Kansas, even in agriculture, require some advanced education, most of our ag education program completers are going on to do more education, even if it's a certificate or a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree. All of those are preparing them for high-quality careers in the agriculture field.
How important is community support for these new programs?
So a program will not be successful if a community does not get behind them. That can either start with the community or start with the administration at the school, but a program will not be successful without the support of both. We see programs that are pushed by the school, and it takes a little while for the community to get behind them, and they eventually get there. We also see programs that the community has really come to the school and kind of rallied the troops to get them to add the program. I think those probably have a little easier time because they have this larger group of people who want to support it rather than just a few administrators. But what we have seen is as those programs have started and those groups have gotten behind it, we've seen a lot of success, a lot of programs and chapters that really almost hit the ground running, and students are being almost instantly impacted.
And you are a member of the National FFA Board of Directors. Will you give us an update on the organization as a whole?
Sure. So a couple of really big things that are happening for National FFA is we have had a national charter from Congress for many decades. It's been revised a couple of times, and we actually have a bill in both the House and the Senate right now to revise that again. Agricultural education has had a strong tie to the U.S. Department of Education. That's where our National FFA advisor sits at the current time. He's also the chairman of the FFA Board of Directors. That at times has been a really strong connection, and at other times it has just been structural. The National Board of Directors is also influenced. 4 of the positions, including my position, are actually representatives of the U.S. Department of Education. Historically, those were employees of the Department of Education, and those positions no longer exist, so now they have a memorandum of understanding to have folks like me sit in those positions. Well, just because of times and how times have changed, we've worked with the Department of Education to revise that or put forward a revision of that. So we will have similar people serving on the roles. They just will represent more their groups, like I represent teacher educators, rather than represent our groups and the Department of Education. So it's still a very similar makeup, but it is literally an act of Congress to have the charter changed. As a response to that, we also need a new constitution or a revised constitution. So if the charter is passed by Congress, then the delegates at the 2019 National FFA Convention will consider a revision to the Constitution. Many of the things of our structure are in the charter and might be in the Constitution. Much of the new charter references that things will be laid out more specifically in the Constitution, giving our delegates more of the responsibility to lead the program because we are a student-led organization with adult advising or guidance, but the new Constitution and charter together will give more power to the delegates as a whole.
And speaking of the National FFA Convention, it won't be long here before Kansas FFA students are traveling to Indianapolis for the 2018 National FFA Convention. Will you talk about what members will be experiencing when they attend the convention?
Absolutely. As usual, we'll have one team in every career development event representing Kansas, competing for a national championship. It's an exciting time for those students. They might be an individual or there might be a team of 4. We usually do really well in representing in those career development events. In addition to that, students can take advantage of leadership workshops as well as their teachers. They have teacher workshops as well. And again, this year we'll have a record size of a career show or career fair and expo where students can interact with universities, major companies, talk to people about internships and all sorts of things that may impact them well beyond high school. New this year is I haven't even seen it. I've heard lots of the concepts. It's a place, it's called the Blue Room, and the Blue Room is where companies have agreed to be part of it, and students will get to go in large groups. It will not be just a crowd at once, but they will interact with these companies to understand how science, technology, engineering, mathematics are playing a role in agriculture, but probably emphasizing the technology piece. And there are some very large nationwide companies who have agreed to be in there. And I believe it's going to be an amazing experience. Lots of time, effort, and donations have been given to make it one of the most exciting pieces of the convention. And so we'll see what it's like. I hope to get a preview before all the students get in. And that actually will kick off a whole series of pieces that relate to technology or STEM in agriculture. And we also have probably the biggest concert ever in National FFA convention history. Garth Brooks will be singing at the convention, so that's the big talk of the town right now.
Lots to look forward to, and we would also like to congratulate you. You will be receiving your honorary American FFA degree at the convention. Will you explain the significance of that and how you hope to continue to impact Kansas and National FFA?
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. The honorary American FFA degree is one of the highest individual honorary awards that we can give to somebody. It is tradition that after someone served on the National FFA Board of Directors and given quite a bit of time that they are awarded with that. Other folks that get it are people who just give significant help to the FFA, or a parent or an advisor of a national officer is awarded an honorary American degree. It is really a big honor for me to get that. It's kind of one of those things that you're humbled to see that you're going to be on the stage with some amazing folks to receive that. Because this is my last year on the board of directors, I will get that degree, and this really allows me to spend more time being done with the National Board of Directors. Will give me more time to put towards our students and towards our teachers, and to put towards projects that we can help Kansas agricultural education. And I also happen to serve on the Kansas FFA Foundation Board of Trustees, so I'll be able to have a little more time to dedicate to that as well.
Well, congratulations again, and thank you for coming on and speaking with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
That, once again, was K-State Professor of Agricultural Education, Jon Ulmer. He and others will be heading in the end of October to the 2018 National FFA Convention, that taking place during the week of October 24th through the 27th. We'll be back with more here on Agriculture Today.
Agriculture and food systems are the main drivers of the Kansas economy, but must be improved in order to feed the world's growing population. How are we going to do so? Reduce food loss, find ways to preserve grasslands, and help families stretch their dollars. Global food systems is one of the 5 grand challenges K-State Research and Extension is addressing. To learn more, visit www.ksre.ksu.edu.
This is Agriculture Today. This year's Fall Forestry Field Day is October 16th at the Kickapoo Tribe Reservation. The Kansas Forest Service has been assisting the Kickapoo Tribe with a forest assessment and management initiative and stream stabilization projects. K-State foresters Jaron Tyndall and Bob Atkinson are here to preview this year's event, and Bob says they're excited to be holding the Fall Field Day on the Kickapoo Tribe Reservation.
We've been working on a grant with the tribe, and so we've been doing both forest inventory there and a lot of forest management work, especially associated with the streams and rivers. And this is going to be an opportunity for us to show off a little bit of the work we've been doing there, as well as bring in some pretty impressive professionals, natural resource professionals, ornithologists and biologists and all kinds of folks.
Jaron, you've been working on this year as well. What are some of the things that you've been responsible for?
Well, I've been helping Bob to identify sites, and the site that we're going to spend the day at is a place that I noticed when we were doing a stream inventory on the Kickapoo Tribal Reservation, and we were getting squawked at by herons in a rookery. And so we, traveling closer to it, they were getting louder, and we noticed that there was a big stand of sycamore trees and really magnificent walnut trees around there too. So we just thought it would really showcase what a a pretty prime bottomland forest looks like in Kansas.
You're actually able to incorporate a lot into these fall forestry field days. For instance, you're doing a Birds of the Forest presentation.
Right. Dr. Alice Boyle will be with us. Alice is a great ornithologist and someone who is going to do a really good job helping people understand the birds you're going to find in your woodlands in Kansas, and also the habitat that is associated with those birds and what you might be able to do on your property to maybe enhance habitat to attract certain songbirds.
And that's something that people are interested in, isn't it, is developing their land to meet the type of habitat that they want on their land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the other speakers is going to be Phil Balch, who is a stream specialist and has been working in Kansas for several decades. And so he's going to talk about stream processes, just help people understand how streams work and what you can expect so far as erosion. And if you do have issues, what kind of management techniques might be available to you.
Another speaker is Bill Busby, an associate scientist with KBS, and that's kind of wildlife and ecology aimed.
Right. Kansas Biological Survey is one of our great partners that manages what we call the Natural Heritage Database. But basically, it's all of the species, different wildlife, plants, animals that we have here in Kansas. And Bill is an expert mammologist, understands the wildlife and the ecological relationship that it has with our woodlands here in Kansas. And so he's going to be here helping us understand, again, what we can do to improve, manipulate our habitat and our woodlands to attract maybe a particular type of wildlife that somebody would like to see on their property.
K-State Extension Forester Charles Barden also there. He'll be talking about plant identification.
Yeah, at this site there's going to be a good variety of trees and shrubs and also understory plants that Charlie can teach us about. We're also bringing in Keith Lynch, retired professor from K-State, to help us with that.
There's also one I'm not quite familiar with, ecotone forestry. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, that's correct.
And what is that?
Yeah, well, ecotone is a fancy term that ecologists use, which describes where we live here in Kansas, actually. In Kansas, what's really unique about practicing forestry, as you might imagine, Jeff, we get a lot of questions. What are foresters doing in Kansas? So this ecotone is really, if you had a bird's eye view and you're flying over the United States, you would see the central hardwood forest on the western edge kind of crashing into the tall grass prairie. And where you see that transition from those different habitat types is what we call an ecotone. And so Ryan Nisus, who is the owner of Ecotone Forestry, is a consulting forester who has used to work for our agency, but has developed his own private business. And he's the guy that goes out and gets a lot of the plans that we write as a state forestry agency implemented. So he'll go in and do the timber stand improvement work. He'll plant the trees along our creeks and rivers as we're trying to improve water quality and stabilize stream banks and a variety of other services. So he's going to be on hand to talk about what he does and how that relates to what landowners can do on their property.
Along that same line, you're going to be looking at working forest management, another area that you would like to push.
Yeah, our district forester for that area, Ryan Rastock, will talk about what you can do with a given forest type, and in the situation that bottomland forest is in, we'll have plant ID with Charlie Barden and Keith Lynch, and then assessment from Ryan Nisus, which kind of lays the foundation for the next step, which is management. What do you do with it now that you know what you have? So Ryan's going to talk about that, different opportunities and expectations for what a forest can be if you actively manage it.
I know they're going to be out there in nature, they're going to be seeing this, but is it really hands-on?
Yeah, well, I think especially when you start looking at the tree identification session we're going to be having there, Dr. Charles Barden does a great job just walking people through the woods. They'll stop, they'll look closely at a particular tree or shrub or vine, and they'll talk about exactly what the identifying characteristics are of that plant. So people will actually be holding, and looking and feeling bark, and so it's very hands-on. And if you've never seen a green heron rookery, you talk about hands-on, that's very impressive to see those huge nests up in those trees. And there's just such an appreciation for creation and for for the wildlife we have in the woodlands we have here in Kansas by coming to these field days. You get a real good feel. And this particular site that Jaron's picked out is just classic bottomland Kansas hardwood, and it's really a great site to experience.
The site is all more or less contained in a big oxbow of a creek, and will more or less run a circle around the inside rim of that oxbow and move from stream processes to the rookery to ecology of mammals, plant ID management. It really captures a lot of different environment types that we see when we're helping landowners to manage the land in all over the state, really.
How do the sessions work? You show up and then you're going to kind of branch off? Is that the idea?
Yeah, more or less. We're going to meet at the Kickapoo Community Center and have an introduction and then move to the field site, which is a couple miles away. And the group will be split probably in half. And so there'll be 2 speaking sessions running concurrently. And we'll do 3 in the morning, and then we'll go back to the community center for lunch, and each group will catch the other 3 presentations that they didn't get earlier in the day.
And the registration is online already, so people can start signing up now. And probably you wish they would sign up so you know who's all going to be there, right?
Yeah, we do have an online option for people, and at our Kansas Forest website, it's www.kansasforest.org. And we've also mailed out quite a few brochures to our regular participants that our foresters work with throughout the state, and have invited those folks also, Jeff.
And it's just a $12 registration fee.
Just $12. Well, all we try to do is cover our costs for lunch. We provide a great lunch for people, and we have refreshments in the morning. And just a shout out to the Brown County Conservation District, who is going to do our reservations for us and also provide some refreshments for us in the morning. And that's one thing I would mention is we have just a variety of partners, conservation partners that join us on this field day. And we're grateful to their support, Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks, Natural Resource Conservation Service, Division of Conservation, Kansas Association of Conservation Districts, K-State Research and Extension. Our extension folks are critical in making these things successful. So I know I'm going to miss somebody there, but I just wanted to recognize the significant number of people that help make these things happen.
In addition to the information and education that comes out of these Fall Forestry Field Days, are you also seeing that people are taking these conservation measures to heart? Are they asking you to come out later and do some follow-ups on their land?
They do. And that's, of course, one of the reasons we do this work and sponsor these field days. It is a significant part of our outreach. And our research tells us that people love to hear from experts, especially from K-State, but they also really appreciate what we call peer-to-peer learning. And so when we are able to bring landowners together in that mix with good research and good experience here in Kansas, we find that we have an event that people respond to. So after these events, it's not unusual for our foresters who provide the services directly to private landowners throughout the state. They'll get multiple phone calls associated with people who have come to these events and then become excited about doing something on their property.
And they'll have a chance to see what the Kickapoo Tribe has accomplished.
Right. And again, that's been a really good partnership for us. We've had a grant thanks to the U.S. Forest Service for quite a while with the Kickapoo, and we have been working on building relationship there and trying to get conservation on the ground in a way that the tribe approves of and is behind, and we're continuing to work on that with the tribe. And this is just one example of that.
That's K-State Forester Bob Atchison and K-State Forester Jaron Tyndall with a preview of the upcoming Fall Forestry Field Day. All of the details, including registration, is available online at kansasforests.org. This is the K-State Radio Network.
What is radon? Home exposure to radon gas is the leading cause of lung cancer death in the United States for non-smokers. In Kansas, 1 in 4 homes will test at or above the EPA action level. The Surgeon General recommends all homes be tested and fixed if necessary. Visit kansasradonprogram.org for more information. Test, fix, save a life. This message brought to you by the Kansas Radon Program, the Kansas Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Welcome back to Agriculture Today. I'm Jeff Wichman. In today's agricultural news, the USDA has announced its latest efforts to advance and improve animal disease traceability to protect our nation's livestock industry. Rod Bain has more.
This is an attempt by USDA and APHIS to partner with state, local, and industry officials to be able to advance protection of our important economic treasure in our livestock industry.
Agriculture Undersecretary Greg Ibaugh referring to Tuesday's announcement of the latest efforts to advance animal disease traceability, particularly in the beef industry.
What we've established is what information we need to be able to do that. And we're going to free the industry to use any kind of technology they want to be able to get us that information.
With USDA and its partners developing the infrastructure to allow electronic sharing of data. In addition,
in order to facilitate and help producers transfer in to be able to start collecting data, we are going to participate in the cost of electronic tags if the producers choose to use electronic tags.
With plans to move forward with partnership and implementation throughout fiscal year 2019. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Ibaugh notes discussions with the livestock industry and how it led to a recent announcement on improved animal disease traceability.
The livestock industry has surfaced some concerns about disease outbreaks and our ability to manage and treat, control, contain, and eradicate a foreign animal disease if it should come to the United States, and I think sharpen the interest in especially the beef industry in trying to figure out how we would identify which animals were at risk of having been exposed, maybe coming down with a disease in the near future, and how we would identify them if they had moved from one premise to the next, maybe even one state to the next. So as we look to consider those possibilities, USDA listened through 14 different listening sessions last summer and have consolidated those recommendations, which kind of gave us a roadmap that set the stage for the direction that we're announcing now that we're going to be heading to help the industry bring more traceability in a way that I think the industry has shown that it's going to support.
Ibaugh discusses how USDA plans to work with the livestock industry to develop advanced animal disease traceability.
As we've had these discussions about moving forward with beef traceability, we've noticed that the technology keeps evolving and different sectors of the beef industry are used to using or are looking at being able to use different technologies. So what USDA has decided that it's really the information that we're interested in at USDA to be able to provide that traceability or work with state vets and state animal health officials to be able to determine where animals have moved in the event of a foreign animal disease or a serious domestic disease outbreak that we need to control and contain. And then we're going to work on providing the infrastructure that would allow that information to move from private databases or company databases, breed association databases, to state databases that would be able to share with the federal database.
Well, is U.S. re-entry into the Trans-Pacific Partnership still an option? Gary Crawford tackles that question.
With what could be a long trade dispute with China, many are asking whether the U.S. might reconsider its pullout from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The Agriculture Department's Undersecretary for Trade, Ted McKinney, was asked about that this week at a trade symposium in Washington.
I think we have yet to see where we go on TPP. I think the president teased us a couple of times on that.
If they offered us a deal that I can't refuse on behalf of the United States, I would do it.
But McKinney told his audience,
we haven't heard anything that would revisit that. But we'll see. And maybe some announcement will come out of the meetings in New York. I understand the president is meeting with Prime Minister Abe of Japan and others, no doubt. And so maybe we'll see some announcements that clarify that kind of thing.
McKinney said the president, of course, has expressed his preference for bilateral agreements, not those involving 11 other countries, such as the TPP. McKinney says the decision's not his, though, and so
we'll just keep working with whatever hand or whatever direction we're dealt with.
In Washington, Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
In this week's soybean update, Greg Akagi visits with a soybean producer from Highland who's participating in the American Soybean Association's Leadership at Its Best program.
Brett Niebling, a soybean producer from Highland, Kansas, joins us. Brett, you're taking part in the 2018-2019 American Soybean Association Leadership at Its Best program. What is the program's purpose?
Syngenta hosts Leadership at Its Best, which is an opportunity for farmer leaders to get together and improve their abilities as both leaders and public speakers. Had an opportunity to get together, represent the state of Kansas and the Soybean Association, and we met with leaders from across the state and the nation, and we got the opportunity to sit through some classes and learn what it means to be a leader and an opportunity to test our public speaking out.
And that was the first part of the program that took place in August in Raleigh?
Yes. Early August, we went down to the Raleigh-Durham area, and we met at Syngenta's Research Triangle Park facility. The second part will take part in March, where we will get together in conjunction with the American Soybean Association meetings. We will have hill visits where we'll meet our public officials in D.C.
Communication skills are so important in this industry. Why did you feel it was important to be a part of this program?
At no time as a farmer do we need farmer leaders to step up and get out and speak about our issues. We need to be able to articulate a message to people that aren't familiar with agriculture. And I thought no time better than the present to get and learn and to try to improve my ability to speak and put that message forward.
Isn't it amazing, though, that not only it's just to the consumer itself, but even to those in Washington, D.C., when you're up on the Hill?
Absolutely. At no time has there been such a bigger divide in urban and rural issues. And we need to be able to speak to the consumer about what's going on. But we also need to tell our leaders that agriculture obviously is the most important industry in the state of Kansas, and they know that for the most part, and continue to push those issues so that they represent our industry more effectively.
And if you had a chance to talk with other soybean producers in the future, what would you tell them to get interested in becoming a part of the Leadership at Its Best program?
Leadership at Its Best, I think, brought a lot of opportunities for me. I think it's improved my ability as a public speaker. I feel comfortable getting up in front of people and talking more so than ever. I also, learned a little bit of tricks and the trade to be able to get on and speak with people that might not be friendly to our issues and how to speak to them effectively. I think this program is excellent, and I think it would be worth any farmer leader's while to take part in it.
That is Brett Niebling, a soybean producer from Highland, Kansas, who joins us on the latest edition of the Kansas Soybean Update.
And that's a look at today's agricultural news. To listen to the podcast version of Agriculture Today, visit agtoday.net, or using a podcast app on your mobile device, type in the search keywords Agriculture, Today, Kansas, and you'll find this program. Tap the subscribe button, and you'll automatically get new episodes every weekday. This is the K-State Radio Network.
Have you ever thought about where your food comes from? If you're thinking the grocery store, think again. Facts show that the American farmer feeds more than 129 people.
They are continually increasing and improving their operations. A wide variety of crops and livestock are grown in Kansas as well as the United States, providing food to your dinner plate.
Next time you see a farmer or rancher, thank them. For more information, contact K-State Research and Extension.
This is Agriculture Today.
Stop, look, and listen. This is our state, Kansas.
I'm not surprised. I've had cars stop in front of me on entering the circle. Now what?
That's Gus Vanderhoeven of Kansas State University with comment on life in rural Kansas.
Did the artist, the sculptor who created the tall, bold American Indian with the peace pipe, have any say in this? I wonder. I doubt it. But he should have had, and if he'd had, I think the setting would have been different. When you drive Bluemont past Aggieville going east, you will come to Tuttle Creek Boulevard. But just before you get to the busy crossroad, you circle around a roundabout at 4th Street. Somewhere there the Blue River used to run much closer to town. Some time ago, it took a new course further east. That big old river, flat, is now a long, built-up business area. But it's not difficult to drive down Blomont and imagine how it was a busy landing site. Coming down Blomont, the tall Indian stands on a pedestal, and his silhouette is reflected against the light. He's facing north. He's in the center of the roundabout. The other morning, as I slipped in among the moving traffic and went to the inner circle to be in line to exit myself on 4th Street going south, I slowed down and stopped momentarily as I watched the police car switch on his lights and pull out of his observation stand, a rather sneaky place. He crossed in front of me and eased in on the other side among the now stopped cars to go after whatever he saw was a traffic error. I'm not surprised. I've had cars stop in front of me on entering the circle. Now what? And that happened with no traffic in the flow. The word flow is the key here. Roundabouts help traffic flow, to keep flowing. In a few moments, I continued on my way down 4th Street. My grandson drove ahead of me, way ahead by now. I wonder what the tall, standing Indian thinks when he watches what goes on at his feet. He, the man of bison and horses and trails. In the past, I've circled the roundabout a couple of times when traffic was quiet to take a better look at the setting. In the center of the roundabout stands the pedestal on which the Indian stands. There are different layers for plant material to widen the footing. All is very symmetrical, and in my eyes, all very wrong. The whole pedestal is built of limestone brick. Nice, large brick, but too nice. And the different circles make up the base are filled with plant material, but the wrong choice. They are ornamental plants coming from a nursery like you would buy plants as a foundation planting in front of your house. It's wrong. And if I were the Indian, I would walk off the pedestal and go away. I would go on a dark night, and the next morning there would be an empty pedestal. I wonder, would people notice? What I never have understood is that when there's such a natural historical figure of an American Indian, that the setting is so unnatural, so stiff, so correct by being incorrect. The old military figures are often set up like that. The word pedestal already says it. The Indian knew the land that we call the Flint Hills. He knew the river. He knew where he was. Of course, the roundabout needs to be round. I'm not touching that. Only make the circle large enough that large trucks can round about. Having said that, I would regard safety and visibility as an essential. But with that in mind, I would carefully take the Indian down. I would ask him to step down, but if he would not, I would help him. He looks so lifelike. Then I would dismantle the pedestal with all the wrong plants. I would save the plants to be used somewhere else. Maybe we should do away with the round evergreen cannonballs. Whoever selected them, planted them. Who? With everything gone, I would start anew. I would build a riser of large, irregular limestone boulders and create a small standing platform for the Indian on top to stand. He would have a natural shape, but off balance within the circle. It would be bold and strong. I would create ample pockets to grow plant material, but I would select from our native plant material, grasses and forbs. Right now, our tall grasses are blowing in the wind. Why are they not blowing at the feet of the tall, standing Indian? Why are there no rich yellow golden native sunflowers? What about the compass plant and all the other options among grasses and forbs? There should be smooth sumac. We can carefully shape it to keep it under control, size-wise. Remember, my rock formation is irregular. We can balance it with plants. Hardy, native plants set down with north, east, south, and west in mind. And the right soil mix can withstand our climate. They belong. I would love to see the goldenrods blooming there. What about blue sage? I would circle around and throw out some thistle seed. Of course, doing that might get me in trouble. The police might pull me over and demand to know what I was doing. Well, officer, with due respect, I know what I am doing. I'm trying to correct a big mistake.
Gus Vander Hoeven of Kansas State University with his weekly commentary on rural Kansas.
And that'll do it for this edition of Agriculture Today. This reminder to listen to the podcast version of Agriculture Today, visit agtoday.net. That's agtoday.net. This is the K-State Radio Network.